And it wouldn't cost us very much because they're already on the payroll. They're already doing it. And they need to be honored. I don't want to be that consultant. I've been that consultant who comes in, and flies out, and it doesn't work.
Thank you. Kira?
Well, I've been to staff development, and as a teacher coming out of it, because it was mandated by some person in the state that said you have to have so many hours of staff development. And I can tell you that it was not useful to me at all, none of it. And I've been teaching now for 21 years. What I can tell you is useful for me as a teacher, and what I can tell you is useful for most teachers, is what are called professional learning communities. What we do as teachers is we work together and with other teachers within our school who teach the same thing. So we're going to come together, we're going to come up with some common assessments, we're going to look at the data of that common assessment or the results of those common assessments, and then what we're going to do is we're going to figure out what worked, what didn't. Gosh, you're really good at teaching mood. My scores weren't really good in that. Maybe we can switch children so that we can go ahead and make sure that my students understand it the way yours. Or show me what you did that's better. Professional learning communities are smaller than RESAs. They're smaller than the county, and they start at the local school system. And when we talk about professional learning communities, we're talking about trusting our teachers to be the content experts, but maybe not necessarily the delivery expert in that one specific area. So if we look at the professional learning communities, or PLCs is what they're called, we are looking at teachers trusting each other and looking at best practices and ensuring that those best practices are put into place. I think that's where we start, and then when we find schools that are really, really, really doing well on their tests and on their assessments, then what we can say is, gosh, that person's doing great. Decatur City Schools, they have a 90% graduation rate. We need to call in some of those teachers to find out what they're doing that's better than the rest of us. We utilize our local school, then we go to our neighbors.
Thank you. And Grace.
One thing I'm finding is when you go last, you got all these ideas, and you don't want to repeat all the stuff that I've heard, because it's all been, it's spot on. It's all very responsible and understanding. I will tell you, when I think about organizing staff development, first of all, I'll tell you, it's key and essential. It needs to be impactful, and it needs to be rewarding. Like I said, you don't want to bore, you don't want to bore your teachers to death, but you want to give them something that they can have some practical application for. And if we're going to have standards on how many hours you need in a year, let's make sure that the scale represents that. So a first-year teacher would probably have a little more faculty development than your teacher that's been teaching for 21 years. And I agree wholeheartedly that we need to take our experienced teachers that are doing well in the classroom. I don't want to take them out of the classroom because that's where they're most effective, but we have to somehow harness what they're doing and pass it on to our other teachers. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question, we'll start with Alan, and we're going to go a little personal here. The question reads, and this is not me reading this, I do not have 5 children, I'd probably have less hair than I do now. I have 5 children, and over the course of their education, I have chosen homeschooling, private school, and public education. What have you chosen for your children, and why?
First thing is you got to change that clock up there. Okay.
Oh yeah.
I've been looking at it the whole time. I chose public education because that's what I went in. I'm in public education, and my children have gone through public education because I'll tell you, I taught 3 years in private school, and I'm very proud of that time. I enjoyed it immensely. So I've had both experiences, and I think that's something that I'm glad I have. Private school was very good that I was at in Valdosta, Valwood School. But I've been in public school for 35 years, and my children have gone the whole time. And I value not only the education that they had, math, English, science, and social studies. Public schools and public education can offer you the social skills, the ability to learn to operate around other kids, because that's what life's about. Life is not about ensconcing your kid in this school here that's nice and pretty and good. Life is about life, where you have to deal with somebody sitting next to you that you might not like, and that you have to understand how to deal with that. You might have to work with somebody that's mean. You have to learn to deal with that. You might find somebody that you just fallen in love with and you like that, and she turns you down. You got to deal with that, okay? And I think this is why my children have flourished in public education. About 92% of all the students in the state of Georgia have flourished in public education. And why public education has such value in our state, because this is the heart and soul of a state, any state. Texas, Rhode Island, Iowa is public education, where these kids go and learn not only academics, but social skills which will take them through life.
Absolutely. And amen. My 3 children are in public school. I'm a graduate of public school. I believe in it, I live it, I breathe it. I want my children to have those experiences that they're only going to get in public school. I really believe in this country we have 3 great entities that can turn the course of our country: the home, the church, and the school in public education. Alan mentioned about it, it's 93% of our children are going to attend public school. It is the real world. There are experiences that you are just not going to get in other locations. You've got to learn to deal with other groups. I want to tell you one quick story about one of my proudest moments as a high school principal at Rome High School and Rome City Schools. If you go into most schools and kids get to choose where they sit, you go and watch at lunch, and what do kids do? They self-segregate. It happens. You will see this pocket of kids, or this pocket of kids, or this pocket of kids. We work very hard on the culture within our school to make sure that all of our kids got to know each other. Fast forward 4 years, I was a rookie high school principal. 4 years later, it was my group of graduates. We had senior day. They got to get their yearbooks first. I got them pizza. I even looked the other way if they chose to go home a little early on that senior day. But when I looked out across that practice football field, I didn't see a self-segregated group of young people. I saw high school seniors who were memorializing a very important time in their lives. They had learned lessons there that they just flat wouldn't learn in many other settings.
Thank you. Nancy?
Thank you. So I'm the mom to 3 elementary school children, Georgia, Jackson, and Jake Jester, and they all go to public school. This will be the last year they're all in the same school, because then I'll be a middle school mom too. And they're thriving. They're doing very well. One of the things I did at the previous elementary school was also a public elementary school that they attended. I started a foundation for that school. I was the founding president of that foundation. So I'm well acquainted with what our kids are doing and what they're getting out of public school. I think the vast majority of our children are going to be educated there, and I think we need to compete for your business, actually. I think we need to have a great product. But I want to say that I absolutely respect the choices that every family makes. The choice that I make is right for my family. But homeschooling is right for families. Going to private school is right for other families. I just want to make the public schools competitive, and so that we have a chance to get your business. But I absolutely respect and think that children can learn in a variety of different environments and get the same types of experiences that they get in public school. I don't think that we should look down on the choices that other people make for their children. Parents are the ultimate arbiter of what is right for their kids. So Stan and I, my husband's in the back, like I said, we're the proud parents of 3 in public school, and we work very hard at those schools, and we're grateful that they're there and grateful for the folks there. But again, I think we have a long way to go in Georgia to compete for your business, and that's what I want to do as the next state school superintendent. Thank you.
Richard?
Well, I guess for myself, I do not have children. My wife and I were not able to have children, and so the kids that I taught and worked with were my children. I can honestly say that I was, very pleased to be a part of their lives and have an impact in their lives. But if I did have children, and I think as any parent, I would send my child to the school that I thought was best for them, where they would, succeed. That would give them the best opportunity to succeed. Whether that meant homeschool, whether it meant private school, whether it meant public school. We as parents, or you as parents, you want the best. And that's when I see that when, as an individual that has worked in public education, I have also, had an opportunity to teach, kids who have been at private school and at homeschool. And the one common denominator is that the parents have always wanted the best. That's all they want. And so for us in public education, for me as a teacher, for me as an educator, that's what I sought to provide. Is that when, I made the commitment, as a teacher, I said I would never forget what it's like to be a classroom teacher, or to be a student. As an administrator, I said I would never forget what it's like to be, a classroom teacher. But the pledge I made to my parents is that when they had a child, when whatever school I was at, that once their child entered that door, they became my child. And that is what we in public education are all about. It is what we should be about. Is that making, your family, an extension to our family. And if we do so, we can gain your trust, we can gain your business. But the bottom line is that you are parents, and you have to make that decision. And I respect that decision no matter what you do. But for any child that attends public education, I will make sure and work to make sure it is the school of choice. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I really like what you said about those being your kids, because I started teaching before I had children. My husband and I had children, and they were my kids. And then I got so excited when we started, having kids, and we have 4. And then I was teaching, and they came to school with me, and that was even more wonderful. Public school for when they were 2, 4, 2nd grade, and 4th grade, we did homeschool, just briefly. So I can understand that, and I loved it. And then we moved to Georgia right after that. The next year we moved to Georgia. And ever since we've been in Georgia, we were in Douglas County schools and now Fayette County schools. And that's the choice my husband and I made for our kids, to be in public schools. My daughter's at Georgia Tech now. She's in her 3rd year at Georgia Tech. My son just started Mercer University, where I work. Again, I get to take my son to school with me again. And I have a high schooler. She's in 10th grade. And I have a middle schooler. She's in 7th grade. And I come home and I talk about all of these things that are bothering me about educational freedom and standards, and I say to them, you know what, if I can't fix this, you guys are just gonna have to go to homeschool again. So I mean, that's why I feel so strongly like I'm here to fix this. But if I can't, then I have to have other options, because I don't want my kids' education controlled by Arnie Duncan, someone who has absolutely no experience teaching and no background in education.
Thank you. Kira?
I have 2 little people at home. I have a daughter 6, her name is Harper, and I have a son who's 4, and his name is Tanner. My mom was a public school teacher. I am a product of public school. I'm an educator in public school. I'm a mommy of a 6-year-old who attends public school. I'm not sure that public school may be the choice for my son. I don't know. I don't know that public school is always going to be the choice for my daughter. But I do know that I want the freedom to be able to choose for my children. And I think that's what parents want, and I think that's what the community wants. So to answer your question, I can't, because I want to make sure that I'm going to do what's best by my child every year that my child's with me. And I want to be able to ensure that parents in Georgia are able to do what's best by their children every year that their children are with them. So whether it's charter school, whether it's homeschool, which I don't have the patience for, by the way, whether it is virtual school, a blended learning, private, public, We need to be able to offer as many choices for our children so that they can follow their passions and they can follow their promise.
Thank you. Vince?
I have 3 children. I said, wow, what a break in the action. You would let us talk about our kids, but for only 2 minutes, that's limiting. I have 3 kids. I have twin girls, and I'm going to age myself. I have twin girls that are 24 years old. Went through the Marietta City school system, and I have a son who's 22 years old that also went through the Marietta City schools. But I'll tell you, for my son, girls are different than boys. If you've got both. Boys are different than girls. My son, we had a tough decision to make when he was finishing up the 6th grade because he was struggling. He was struggling, much like his dad did when he was in school. And so we made a choice at that time, and after talking with many teachers, many educators, and talking to our son, I said, we need a change. We need something to shake you up. What is it that, what are the things that we can do? And I was glad at that time to have the choice, and I believe parents should have the choice to choose where their children go to school. And we put him in a private school. And we put him in a private school for 2 years, 7th grade and 8th grade. Because we wanted, we evaluated the school, smaller classes, a lot more attention. And he said, I think, Daddy, that's what I want. And I think I can get back on track if I can get just a couple of years. So he went 2 years to private school. And we did another evaluation after 8th grade and put him back at Marietta City High School. Did fine. I used to kid my kids. I said, look, you're going over there to Marietta City, the School of Hard Knocks. You get a lot of learning over there, not just in the classroom, but about life. Echo your sentiment. They need to learn about life, all the different cultures and all the different folks that go to that high school. And it was a very enriching experience. But I was happy that we were able to at least choose where we want to put our child as he pursues his education. So I'm all about you being, whether it's homeschool, private school, public school. And I'm a public school graduate myself. And I said, I want to make the public schools in Georgia the very best they can be. Thank you.
Thank you. Carol?
I have 2 children. They started out in the Gwinnett County Schools, public schools, and finished at the North Fulton Public Schools. But in between, we were house hunting. And you're so limited to which school you can go to by your zip code. And in Fulton, they have very small elementary schools, I think 600 students. But if we look at a house in this subdivision, we would have started our daughter in that school. If we looked at a different subdivision, well, while we were house hunting, we put her in private school. And so it was a nice fallback position because we didn't buy that. We put a contract on a house and it didn't go through, so we would have had to pull her out of that school, I guess, and move her in the middle of the year. So I'm glad we had the opportunity. It was Woodward Academy. And it gave me good insight into what I was getting at a public school versus a private school. My son was getting a much more aggressive math and academic rigor in the public schools. I went and talked to the teacher of my daughter's math class and asked her about this. And she said, it's interesting, we test these kids when they're pre-K or kindergarten and put them in the school. We have no idea. By 3rd grade, if they're really that smart, whatever test they give in pre-K. So I found that the bigger the school, public schools are usually bigger than private schools, you have more opportunities for AP classes. You have to have so many students to get an AP teacher. And there were more avenues of on-level and advanced level. So it worked out well for us to put her in public school once we settled on a house. Now, that brings back to what Kara was saying. It would be nice to not have your zip code dictate your school choice. That, like I said, in Fulton especially, within walking distance of my home, there are 3 elementary schools. And they all, of course, different subdivisions go to each one. So that makes it tough. Also, sometimes you're just not happy or the way that school teaches. You want a choice. So it would be nice to see more choices and competition in the schools.
Thank you. All right, our next question will start with Mike. Georgia has 3 ways to complete high school: a diploma, a certificate, and a special education diploma. Do you support adding a 4th option, a technical education diploma? Why or why not?
Now, I think we have enough different diplomas. What we have to do is ensure that we help the young people find their passion in one of those 3 avenues. And I want to echo some earlier comments about the graduation rate and why we rank where we do. So many states have much lower expectations for what their graduates have to have in the way, for example, math. In Georgia, you have to have 4 maths, and that third one has to be advanced algebra and trig, and it doesn't matter what your IEP says by and large. That is hurting us. If you're trying to truly compare apples to apples, it's not happening. But what we have to do is make sure that we have multiple ways for young people to find their passion. The Career Pathways Initiative, which was mandated by state law, where we have put in 100 new courses over 17 clusters with the input of business and industry throughout the state of Georgia, will allow us to develop courses that help the young people find their passion and will help turn them into graduates. I don't think we have to add another diploma to make that happen. What we have to do is do a better job with a systemic approach. Graduation rates do not live and die on the high school experience. It begins in kindergarten and it runs all the way through. So we've got to do a better job with career awareness type activities in the elementary level, career exploration type activities in the middle school, and really career development activities at the high school level. Our business and industry loves this type of approach. We ask them to tell us what we need to do because they're our end consumers. And whatever job, whether kids leave high school and go directly to work, whether they leave high school and go to technical college, whether they leave high school and go into a traditional 4-year diploma program, we've got to give them all of those options and help those young people find the passion.
Nancy?
Thank you. A couple of things first, just, technology is great, so I've got my smartphone up here, so I looked up the grading scales of our neighbor states, and do you know in Texas, Tennessee, and North Carolina, well, Texas and Tennessee, below 75 is a D. So boy, let's see those numbers if we were relative to that. That would make us look worse, not better. And in fact, North Carolina, you would have a 77, is the lowest to get a C in North Carolina. So 76 is a D there. So, the apples aren't looking so good when we start comparing. They really aren't. Okay, so we have to get serious. As far as the diplomas go, I was over in Jasper yesterday and had a great conversation with a fellow running for the school board. He's a big proponent of technical education, and we're not doing well there. We're providing lip service to career education, and we know that is a solid road into the middle class with great income potential for kids, and we are just really passing that by. We need to be seeing more dual enrollment. We were talking about that just last night in Jasper, and that's really a good investment for taxpayers. We need to be letting those kids, and that will also help kids. We talked some about relevance here. It will help keep education relevant, and it'll be a good investment, again, for the taxpayer. So, and when those kids get out, they're making more. Some of those degree programs, they're making more on average than 4-year college graduates who are then saddled with debt. So, I don't know if the answer is really a diploma, but we certainly need to be focused more on technical education and pushing, allowing children to go there and telling them more about it. Some counties are doing a great job. I think they're doing a good job about it in Hall County, and we need to be sharing those practices across our state. Thank you.
Again, looking at whether it's technical, college, special ed, whatever diploma selection you have, it's got to have relevance. It's got to have actually meaning. When the child actually graduates from high school, what does that diploma mean? Does it open the doors of opportunity for them to continue their education? Does it allow them to be, effective and very productive, members of a business? It will allow them to eventually become a small business owner. So I think relevance and long term, we have to look at, does the piece of paper actually mean anything? But that being said, I think that, with our schools and with our kids, we need to give them as much choice, as possible. And that means that we expand the opportunities, whether it's, looking at, expanding our STEM classwork, looking at expanding, what I used to call the vocational technical skill area, which definitely has took a hit over the many years because of a lot of remediation and really moving away from the one-size-fits-all mentality, which we had during that time of No Child Left Behind. It does have to, be focused. It does have to be looked at. I think, having partnerships with our business, would be a great plan. Looking at, apprenticeships, at the local level, expanding, opportunities with whether it's agriculture. I think, agriculture is a $70 billion business in Georgia. And so we need to do a bigger partnership and a greater partnership with our businesses. Let's put labs from our businesses right there at our school. That will give them relevance, that will give them meaning, that will give substance to our diplomas. Thank you.
Very good.
I really love living in Georgia, and I really love living in Fayette County. I mean, I'm just so happy to be here in Georgia. What the problem is with these career clusters is, I ran a grant from the U.S. Department of Education for 4 years, the Preparing Tomorrow's Teachers Use Technology Grant. I've been to Washington, D.C. They do not have the answers. So what does this have to do with career technical education? It's coming from Washington, D.C. What we have is we have the career clusters that are copyrighted and trademarked by Achieve and Company, the same people who copyrighted Common Core. And these career clusters now, they're written into this legislation, House Bill 897, and not only are they there in the House bill, and now we have to do them, our whole rating system that we use here in Georgia, the CCRPI, is no longer based on reading or writing or math, just only 51%. Yes, the rest, Duncan Brownie points for people who complete these career pathways. No one's analyzing whether they even need them. No one's analyzing whether they're even any good. I met someone who makes signs, who wants to do t-shirt printing, and they suggested, oh, maybe we could have kids learn that. Oh no, it's not on the list. This list was not made by Georgians. It was made by people outside of Georgia, and this needs to be brought to light because we cannot look at our school rating scores and think that those are an indication of how our students are doing academically when they're not. They have all these other factors that are included. We need to get back to direct rating of student achievement, and we don't need these Duncan Brownie points for all of these career clusters completers, because that is not what our parents have chosen. If our parents and our students want career education, good. Let's do it. But we don't want Arnie Duncan telling us what to do.
Thank you. Kira?
Thank you. I think the question was technical education diploma. Are we in for it or against it? Yes, I am absolutely for a technical education diploma. We need to give our career technological, agricultural, and engineering pathways teeth. Meaning, I want for our students who may not want to go to college, not that they're not able, they may just choose not to go to school. The ability to leave high school with a hireable certified skill. No, okay, you're done here now you need a little bit of training in a technical school so that we can get you a job. We should be able to afford our students the ability to walk out of 12th grade, graduating 12th grade, with a degree and saying, you are walking now into a job. Again, this opens up the ability for our schools. I know Richard said, let's allow the schools to have these technical options and technical abilities. Schools can't be a jacks of all trades and masters of none. We can't say we're going to have a foods class and a whole chef's kitchen, and we're also going to have a greenhouse, and we're also going to have a computer program that rivals that of IBM. We can't have all of that. But what we can do is have specific schools specialize in specific areas and afford our students the ability to move within those areas. And that could be inter-school choice, intra-school choice. The smaller counties could partner together. It happens. It happened in Alabama back in 1980, when my husband's principal had the forethought to say, hey, we've got a graduating class of 20. Let's go to the different high schools around and say, these children need to take some AP courses. So they put them all together, they sent them to a technical school, and they afforded them the ability to take those classes together. That can be done in our smaller systems, and I think we're negating that choice there for our smaller systems as well.
Thank you. Yes.
I will say to you, opportunity, opportunity, opportunity. When our young people graduate from high school, I want to make sure they have an opportunity to go to work, to go to technical school, or to go to college. Our technical schools are a critical part of our economy and and the opportunity for our students that don't want to go on to a four-year college where they can pick up a skill. And I think we can work with our businesses. And we've got, it's going to be around the state right now, and where businesses are working with schools to provide that technical education. Now, do we need another technical diploma? That can be studied. What we want to make sure is they have the opportunity to train in a specific skill if that's what they want. They are young adults and they get to choose, and they talk with their parents. My kids talk with me. Said, as long as the opportunity is there, you can choose which career or which path you would like to go down. And I think if those technical schools, like I said, if those technical schools and the businesses are working together with our school systems, the opportunity, again, is there for our youngsters. Thank you.
Thank you.
What was the question again, exactly?
Sure. Georgia has 3 ways to complete high school: a diploma, a certificate, and a special education diploma. Do you support adding a 4th option, a technical education diploma? Why or why not?
Thank you. I love technical ed. I grew up in an at-risk high school, and in that school there was an auto mechanics lab. There was even factory workers where they had fabrics tie with, and they taught them to use the saws. And in those days there was typing, shorthand, and bookkeeping. But these students would be able to graduate with job skills ready to go to work. Also in Germany they have a model where you learn college prep classes as well as a skill. We have a family relative that's a professor of physics at Purdue University, but he's also a skilled carpenter because he grew up in that system. Just coming back to auto mechanics is a good example of, should be a required class because all of us are going to own cars. So I think just offering those in the school are just an excellent idea. The upside of that too is when I first started teaching the school, it was a different school than when I attended, but they had an auto mechanics class, and at night they offered community adult ed in there, and so I was able to take auto mechanics. So just having these facilities in a community, sometimes you educate the adults as well as the kids in different skills.
All right, thank you.
So my
Alan,
time now?
it is your turn.
I haven't heard a whole lot except some stuff. The question was, would you offer a technical diploma? Yes. What we need is we ought to understand that not every system is like a Cherokee or Fulton or Cobb or Forsyth. That there are kids out there in this state, because remember this is the state school superintendent, so you need knowledge of all 180 school systems about what they do in South Georgia, Middle Georgia, North Georgia, and the metro area. There are actually a lot of kids who just want to go through school and get a job. They want training in high school, the basic training for high school, shop, health occupations, and then about 16 or 17, a large part because of their family economics. They need to work. When I was at Gordon Central in the carpet capital of the world in Calhoun and Dalton, they wanted to get out and work for a living. They wanted a job. That was their nature. We talk about social skills. That was their nature, to be a carpet person. It's kind of like my mother was a teacher, I'm a teacher. We follow paths in life. And so a lot of times we have to understand that these kids in this school, they want to get what they need in the 9th or 10th grade, maybe 11th grade, and then they want to get out, they can drive. They're